Two alien women turned my gym into their private playground. The midnight visitor. The rain hammered against the windows of Iron Heart Boxing Gym like 1,000 desperate fists. Maya Torres wrapped her bruised knuckles tighter, the tape pulling against skin that had seen too many fights, some in the ring, most outside it. At 32, she wore her past like poorly healed scars. A championship belt she'd lost to a torn rotator cuff, a fiancé who'd left when the medical bills piled up, and a gym that barely covered rent. 3 in the morning was her favorite time. No clients asking when she'd compete again. No creditors calling. Just her, the heavy bag, and the ghosts of who she used to be. The lights flickered once. Twice. Then died completely. Perfect, Maya muttered, reaching for her phone's flashlight. That's when she saw him. He stood in the center of the ring, impossible, because she'd locked every door, and he was collapsing. His body hit the canvas with a sound that made Maya's combat instinct scream. She vaulted over the ropes without thinking. Up close, he was magnificent and terrifying. His skin had a copper sheen that seemed to hold its own light source, and across his chest and arms ran intricate patterns that glowed soft gold, like circuitry made of sunlight. His hair was dark as deep space, cropped short and practical. He wore something between armor and cloth, torn and scorched. "Please," he gasped, his voice accented in ways that made her native English sound flat. "Sanctuary. Just until dawn." His eyes met hers, deep amber with flecks that moved like molten metal, and Maya felt the ground shift beneath her feet in ways that had nothing to do with exhaustion. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Zarin." His golden patterns flickered weakly. "And I am very far from home." Maya's hand hovered over his shoulder, feeling heat radiating through his strange uniform. Every instinct told her to call someone, get help, protect herself. Instead, she made a choice that would rewrite her entire world. "Let me see where you're hurt." Healing through motion. Maya's hands worked with practiced efficiency, cleaning the burns that marked Zarin's copper skin. His golden patterns pulsed faintly with each touch, and she found herself mesmerized by the way they branched like rivers of light beneath her fingertips. "Your markings," she said softly, applying salve to a particularly nasty wound along his ribs. "Do they always glow like this?" "They respond to stimulus." His accent made the word sound intimate. "Pain. Exertion. Other things." Their eyes met, and Maya felt heat that had nothing to do with the humid gym air. Zarin explained haltingly, his reconnaissance vessel had malfunctioned during atmospheric entry, crashing in the industrial wasteland 3 blocks over. His crew was scattered. His communication device was destroyed. He needed 12 hours for his ship's emergency beacon to charge enough to signal for extraction. 12 hours, Maya repeated, sitting back on her heels. Dawn was 4 hours away. And then what? Your people come get you and forget Earth exists. Protocol requires discretion. His golden patterns flared brighter when he shifted, trying to sit up. Maya's hand pressed gently against his chest, stopping him. "Don't. You're still healing." But she didn't remove her hand. His skin was warm, almost hot, and she could feel something like a heartbeat, faster than human, a rapid flutter that matched the pulsing of his patterns. "Your world's gravity is heavier than mine," Zarin said quietly. "Everything here feels weighted, significant. Is that good or bad?" "I haven't decided yet." As the hours crept toward dawn, Maya found herself telling him things she'd never spoken aloud, about the championship fight where her shoulder had given out in the 7th round, about the physical therapy she couldn't afford, about choosing to keep the gym open even as it slowly bankrupted her because it was the only thing she had left that felt real. Zarin listened with an intensity that made her feel truly seen for the first time in years. "On my world," he said finally, "warriors who survive impossible odds are called star-blooded. The universe itself conspires to keep them alive because their story isn't finished." His amber eyes held hers. "You have that quality, Maya Torres." She laughed, but it came out breathless. "I'm just stubborn." Perhaps stubbornness is how humans say star-blooded. When he finally stood, carefully, testing his recovered strength, Maya rose with him. They were close, so close she could see tiny flecks of gold in his dark hair, could feel the heat radiating from those glowing patterns. "Show me," Zarin said suddenly. "Show me how humans fight." The dance of trust. The sparring started as curiosity. Maya demonstrated basic boxing stances while Zarin watched with an observer's intensity, his golden patterns flickering as he absorbed each movement. When he mimicked her jab-cross combination, his form was perfect but strange, efficient in ways that suggested his body followed different physical rules. "Your balance is all wrong for Earth gravity," Maya said, stepping closer to adjust his stance. Her hands settled on his hips, guiding them into alignment, and his patterns blazed suddenly bright. "Does that hurt?"
No.
His voice had dropped lower. "Not pain." She should have stepped back. Professional distance. But her palms stayed where they were, feeling the heat of him through the repaired fabric of his uniform. Then what? Awareness. Zarin turned slowly within her grip until they faced each other. "My species, we're empathic through touch. I feel what you feel." Maya's breath caught. "And what do I feel?" His hand rose to cup her jaw, thumb tracing her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. The golden circuits along his arm pulsed in rhythm with her suddenly racing heart. "Lonely. Strong. Afraid of wanting something you think you can't have." "You're reading a lot into one touch," she whispered, but couldn't pull away. "Am I wrong?" Instead of answering, Maya showed him a grappling technique, how to use an opponent's momentum against them. But when Zarin practiced the hold, wrapping his arms around her from behind, neither of them moved to break it. His breath was warm against her neck, his golden patterns painting her skin with soft light. "This is dangerous," Maya said, but leaned back into his chest anyway. "Training often is." "That's not what I mean." Zarin's arms tightened fractionally. "I know." They stayed frozen in that almost embrace while the first hints of dawn grayed the windows. Finally, Maya twisted in his grip, not to escape, but to face him. His eyes were molten gold now, his patterns so bright they left after images. "You have to leave at dawn," she said. "Yes." "This can't happen."
No.
But she was already rising on her toes, and he was already lowering his head, and when their lips met it felt like every fight she'd ever lost and won simultaneously. His mouth was hot, tasting of something like cinnamon and ozone, and his hands tangled in her hair while her fingers traced those glowing patterns, following them down his neck, across his shoulders, mapping him like territory she desperately wanted to claim. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his patterns were pulsing so bright the entire gym glowed gold. When worlds collide. The signal came at noon, vibrating through the gym's metal framework like a tuning fork struck by gods. Maya felt it in her bones before she saw Zarin stiffen, his golden patterns flaring in response to frequencies she couldn't hear. "They're here," he said, and the resignation in his voice broke something in her chest. 3 figures materialized in the parking lot, literally materialized, their forms solidifying from shimmer to substance. Through the window, Maya saw beings like Zarin but different, one with silver patterns instead of gold, another whose skin held green undertones. They wore full ceremonial armor that made Zarin's torn uniform look like rags. "Lieutenant Zarin," the silver-patterned one called, her voice carrying authority that needed no translation. "Retrieval protocol initiated. Prepare for extraction." Zarin moved toward the door, each step mechanical. Maya watched his patterns dim with every footfall, watched him rebuild the walls she'd spent the night breaking down. "That's it." The words exploded from her before she could stop them. "You just leave." He paused, hand on the doorframe, not turning around. "My duty." "Screw duty." Maya crossed the space between them in 3 strides, grabbing his arm and spinning him to face her. His patterns flared at her touch. "Look me in the eye and tell me last night meant nothing. Tell me you felt nothing. What I feel is irrelevant." But his voice cracked on the words. "Coward." She said it softly, with the intimate cruelty of someone who knows exactly where to strike. "You're not afraid of breaking protocol. You're afraid of wanting to stay." Zarin's control shattered like glass. One moment he was rigid with military discipline, the next he had her backed against the wall, his body pressed to hers, his patterns blazing so bright she had to squint. You think I don't want this? Want you? I am trained to survive enemy interrogation, plasma fire, the void of space, but 12 hours with you has unmade me completely. His forehead pressed to hers, and she felt moisture on his face that might have been sweat or tears or something alien she had no name for. Then stay, Maya whispered. Choose this. Choose me. I can't abandon my squad, my mission. Can't, or won't. Outside, the silver-patterned commander's patience was wearing thin. Lieutenant. Now. Zarin pulled back, his eyes searching Maya's face like he was memorizing every detail. Then he kissed her, desperate, claiming, goodbye, and walked out the door. Maya stood in the empty gym, watching through the window as he rejoined his unit. She saw him stand at attention, saw the commander gesture sharply. The shimmer began to build around them. And then Zarin stepped backward, out of the extraction field. His voice carried clearly as his patterns exploded into supernova brightness. I invoke right of sanctuary. I claim asylum on this world, under the protection of this human, by choice and free will. The silence that followed could have swallowed stars. The new beginning. 6 months later, Maya adjusted the new sign hanging above the gym's entrance, Iron Heart Boxing, all welcome. The addendum in smaller letters underneath read, seriously, all. Inside, the morning class was in full swing. Mrs. Chen from the nail salon practiced jabs while her golden retriever waited patiently. 2 teenagers worked the speed bag with the focused intensity of kids who'd found something better than street corners. And in the far corner, partially hidden by the heavy bags, a blue-skinned woman with silver patterns worked through Zarin's advanced meditation forms. Her young daughter, human father, alien mother, mimicking the movements with 4-year-old enthusiasm. Zarin himself was in the ring, teaching an elderly man whose trembling hands steadied when wrapped around boxing gloves. His golden patterns provided gentle light in the dim corner, no longer something to hide but simply part of who he was. Maya watched from her office, paperwork spread before her, bills marked paid for the first time in years. The settlement from the Intergalactic Council had been generous. Zarin's asylum claim had exposed a loophole in first contact protocols that needed closing, and silence came with compensation. Enough to save the gym. Enough to expand it. Enough to turn it into what it was always meant to be, a sanctuary. She felt him before she heard him. That empathic connection worked both ways now. Zarin's arms wrapped around her from behind, his chin settling on her shoulder, patterns pulsing warm against her back. The Jenkins boy wants to enter the youth tournament, he murmured against her neck. I think he's ready. You think everyone's ready. You're a soft touch. You're one to talk. You gave Mrs. Chen free membership for a year. Her bakery gives us free coffee. It's business. It's kindness. He turned her in his arms, those amber eyes as warm as the first night she'd found him bleeding on her canvas. You see potential in everyone. It's why I stayed. I thought you stayed because I called you a coward. That too. His smile was devastating. You were the first person to see me as something other than a soldier. The first to demand I choose what I wanted rather than what I was assigned. Maya traced the golden patterns on his cheek, watching them brighten under her touch. They'd learned so much about each other in 6 months. How his patterns flared during laughter, during passion, during the quiet morning moments when he watched her sleep. How her touch could ground him when memories of his old life threatened to pull him away. How gravity worked differently when 2 people chose to share its weight. Regrets? She asked, though she knew the answer. Only that I didn't crash land here sooner. Through the office window, the gym hummed with life, human and otherwise, all finding strength in shared space. The heavy bags still swung. The ropes still creaked. But now they marked time in a life rebuilt around radical trust, around choosing love over fear, around believing that sanctuary isn't a place but a promise 2 people make to keep each other safe. Zarin kissed her slowly, thoroughly, his patterns painting gold across her skin like a vow renewed with every touch. Outside, the sign swayed in the breeze, all welcome. And for the first time in years, Maya Torres believed it. For her gym, for her heart, for the impossible beautiful future she and a star-crossed warrior were building one day at a time. Lessons written in starlight. True strength isn't measured in victories, but in the courage to be vulnerable with another soul. Love doesn't ask us to abandon duty, it asks us to redefine what we're dutiful to. Sanctuary isn't found in locked doors and high walls, but in the radical act of choosing someone and letting them choose you back. The bravest thing a warrior can do is lay down their armor and trust that being seen, truly seen, won't destroy them but make them whole.